Hi everyone, Matt here. Welcome back to M4 Drums and Builds. Today I have another unboxing and review for you. Today we're going over Ridgid's R4560 table saw, which again, I went to Facebook and Instagram to see what you want me to cover, what you want to see about this saw, and the biggest question I got was the warranty. Everyone's confused of why this has a 5-year warranty and isn't covered by Ridgid's LSA. Well, again, like the miter saw I covered in my last video, this is manufactured by DPEC, which is Delta Power and Equipment Company, not Tektronix Industries, which is what we're used to with the Ridgid. So that's why it may look very similar to some other table saws on the market, and it comes with the 5-year warranty, not Ridgid's LSA. So with that being said, answering the biggest question right off the bat, let's dive in, open this up, and see what it's all about. The assembly directions are done really well, so I'm not going to go too in depth on that, but I will show every step that's required to put this together. The trick is to go nice and slow and make sure everything is as square as you can get it as you assemble. All right, now that it's all assembled, let's take a look at some of the features, make some fine-tune adjustments, and then start cutting. All right, on the left side of the saw, we have storage for your miter gauge and your fence. Power switch up front with a large shutoff for safety, I do like that. Both the height and the bevel adjustment wheels do lock, which is very nice. And on the right side of the saw, you have storage for your push stick, your blade wrench. There is only one because it does have an arbor lock on it, and for your blade guard and kickback pawls. And in the rear of this saw, it does just have your dust port, which we'll talk more dust collection later. And on the top of the saw, you can adjust your stops for 45 and 90 degrees. One feature I do like of this saw is one side always stays on the ground on the wheels. This other one is only in the air when you are moving it around. And when you drop it down onto its feet, it's just one small drop with one side of the saw, so it doesn't slam to the ground like some of the other saws do. And this fence does have an auxiliary fence that you can flip down for when you're cutting small cuts with thin stock, that you can still use your blade guard. All right, first I'm going to check that this fence is perpendicular to the tabletop. We have adjustments here and on the other side. So let's put this angle gauge. I use the digital one so you can see it in the camera. And right now it is at 90 degrees. so I don't have to adjust it yet. Again, I'll revisit all these measurements after we make cuts with it. But right now, right out of the box, it is square. But if you do have to adjust it, it's just these two nylon set screws right at the top. All right, now we'll check that the fence is square to the slots. So I got my gauge on here, little makeshift gauge that I made that seems to work really good. Let's check the front, and we're gonna slide it on back. See, we are off quite a bit, so I'm gonna make some adjustment on that and try to square it up a little better. To make this adjustment, there's just two little set screws on the front that you do have to pull the fence off for, make some adjustments, put it back, that way we can square it up to the slots. All right, and after some adjusting, I've got it very square. So I'm really happy with that. All right, now we're gonna test that the blade is square to the miter slots. So I'm gonna take a Sharpie and I'm gonna mark one of the teeth, like that. Get my trusty homemade gauge on here, zero that out. Now what I'm gonna do is take a reading, set it at 0, and then I'm going to rotate the blade with the gauge to the back. We are off by 6/1000 of an inch. So I am going to adjust that just a bit. Now if you have to adjust the blade, it doesn't really say this well in the manual, but there's 2 bolts here, 2 here, and same on the front of it. So you can loosen those up and tweak it over a bit and tighten them back down. You don't get a lot of adjustment out of this saw, but if you need to move it over by a few thousandths of an inch, it'll do it. So I was able to get from 6/1000 of an inch down to 2, which for my standards, that's gonna be great. So I'm pretty happy with that, and it didn't take me very long to get it that close. So I'm gonna leave it there and keep moving on. All right, when you remove the blade insert, you can see in here it does have an arbor lock. So there's only the 1 wrench to remove your blade. And I'm gonna check the riving knife with a straight edge. Remember, not on the teeth of the blade, on the body of the blade. And this looks really good. There are 4 set screws down in here if you do need to adjust the knife a little bit, but mine is good, so I'm gonna leave it right where it is. And the last thing I'm gonna do is set the blade at 1 inch and adjust my line over so it also matches at the 1 inch, and then repeat it on the other side. All right, I've made passes on all 4 sides of this board, multiple passes actually, and been cutting this down smaller and smaller. So let's check how the miter gauge did. There I'm bouncing right at 89.9 and 90. And let's check the fence. So I'm going to measure on this side. And we are right on 6 inches. Now let's flip it around. And do the other side. We are right on 6 inches. And that even tells me that my guide is dialed in because I didn't measure the fence to the blade. I just used the rulers on the front rail that is set on 6 inches, and I got that dialed in exactly to 6 inches. Normally the way I do it, if I'm making cuts that aren't super intricate, I will just use the gauges on the table saw. If it's something very fine, then I will actually measure from the blade to the fence. But this is really good. I got that dialed in really close. So it didn't take me too long either to get this all dialed in. All right, next I'm going to turn on the blade and shut it off so you can see how long it takes the blade to stop. So pretty good. I do like that it actually comes to a complete stop, where some of the other saws I've used, that blade just keeps on spinning for quite some time. So this has somewhat of a blade brake on it, so it doesn't spin too long before it comes to a stop. I kind of look for this in all of my saws because that could be a huge safety issue when you turned off your saw and you start working and you don't realize that the blade is still spinning, and you actually put a piece, or even worse, a finger or something on the blade because it's still spinning. So to get these blades to stop sooner, I just think that's a huge safety thing, and I like that a lot. And it wouldn't be a table saw video without the nickel test. Taking a look at the dust collection, you do have your standard 2.5-inch shop vac connection, and the box it's coming from just surrounds the blade, which is nice because your gears are outside of this box for your height and bevel adjustments, so it keeps them from getting gummed up with sawdust on top of the grease. But this box is not airtight, so you will get some dust coming out of it. Here's a side-by-side shot of a cut being made with the shop vac and a cut being made without. Now let's just talk about the blade for a minute. The maximum cut depth is 3 1/8 of an inch. When I measure that, I do get about a 1/16 of an inch taller than that, so it will cut completely through that piece. Now it does accept dado stacks, and you could stack it up to 1/13/16 of an inch thick, but it doesn't specify if it's a 6-inch or an 8-inch dado stack. Some table saws are very specific on what it will require. This one doesn't say. So I did put my 8-inch stack on there, and it works just fine. It fits great on there, except you will need a new insert for your dados. So during the saw setup, I just used 3/4-inch plywood. But now that it's all ready to go, I'm gonna try cutting different woods and different hardnesses and different thicknesses to see how the motor performs when it's under more of a workload. And so far, it's really handled everything I've put through it. You know, it wouldn't be a real building video if I wasn't covered in sawdust. So overall, I'm really happy with this saw. Like the miter saw video, I always do a follow-up video a little over a month later because just doing some initial cuts is not enough to see if I truly like the saw or not. I like to build at least a few projects with it and see over time if things are holding, things are going out of square, or just more of the longevity of it. So I will follow up with that. But right off the bat, I am impressed with this. It's a very nice saw. Now what I get hung up on is they're calling this a contractor saw. And I find that name a little bad because contractor saws I picture bringing to a job site, but they call those job site saws. So this is not portable. It does have the wheels to move it around your shop, but you're not going to want to bring it outside of your shop. It is very heavy, cast iron top. It is very well built. So yeah, you can roll it easily around, you know, your shop hard floor, but don't think contractor saw like you're bringing it outside of a workshop, because that's just not going to happen. And also keep in mind, this is not on the level of a true cabinet saw. Obviously at this price point, you're not talking thousands of dollars, you're talking hundreds of dollars, and the price reflects that. So it is not going to be the precision saw that a cabinet saw would be, but for your average hobbyist or home shop builder, something like that, that is on a budget, this is performing very well and I'm very happy with it. With that being said, let's look at a few things I don't like. The first thing that I noticed that I kind of got hung up on is to remove your blade guard and your kickback pawls, you do have to raise your blade almost completely up to get these off. So this, you can't get it out of the groove because you have to raise this up to get it out of there. And also, since this is a hard back, some of the teeth of the pawls have been hanging up on this back when adjusting or removing them. Other saws, my other Ridgid has more of a ramp back here, not a hard edge, and so it lets those teeth kind of glide over it, where these sometimes are getting stuck in that crack, and it's just really annoying. Also, if you have your blade set and you just want to throw your guards on or off really fast, again, you have to go back, raise your blade all the way up to get it off, and then put it back down to where you want it. So slightly annoying. I do really like onboard tool storage, but these hooks here for the fence are very flimsy. You could literally just bend them how you want them. So, which I guess that could be good because you can adjust it to fit the fence really well, but that fence is really heavy and you get a lot of flex out of these when taking the fence in and out, and I just would like to see those a little more beefy. And the last thing is the seam on the front rails. It was kind of cut a little bit rough and it's hard to get it perfectly lined up, where there's actually just a little bit of a lip there, and you can hear it when you're sliding the fence over it. So I like to address this in the future, and I'm also afraid it's going to wear the nylon slide, which is also how you level. So as this is getting slid over it and it wears away the bottom of that nylon, my fence is actually going to get off. So I'd like to address that, try to smooth it out and make that a little bit better. And that's it. Overall, I'm really happy with this saw and I'm excited to use it on the next few projects. After that, I will do a follow-up video on it, so if you have any questions that I didn't include and you'd like to see in that video, just put them below and I'll make sure to include it. If you haven't already, please hit like and subscribe below and follow me on Instagram, informat_builds. Thank you.